Alright, so I just saw Black Adam, and the main question here today is if it's even worth a watch. As some of you may know, I've already said this many times, but I'm starting to just not care about superhero media at all. I don't watch films, I kind of watch the shows, but usually DC takes the cake on the most unappealing superhero flicks and just steaming piles of dog shit. They at least have a history of doing this. When they make trailers like the one for Black Adam, it's just really hard to take these movies seriously and get the impression that you're gonna see a really enjoyable movie. But I have to admit that when I saw the movie, I was in complete shock that the trailer did such a big injustice to this movie, because this is not a terrible movie. I personally had a fun time watching this movie. It's not anything super special, but it is entertaining at the least. For starters, the movie has a super safe, super flat story. It's a pretty by-the-book superhero movie. I think the main difference from like Black Adam and all the other superhero movies made is that this movie is being hyper-focused on the action. This isn't necessarily a surprise, seeing that Dwayne Johnson was casted as the star of the movie. I was just surprised that they didn't end up in a jungle at some point in the movie, which, I'm sorry if that's a spoiler for you, I'll try not to mention anything else that happens in the movie that could spoil it. And the movie does spend most of its time following Black Adam, which is fine because they make the character likable at least. If Black Adam was just like broody the whole movie, then it really wouldn't have worked. My only personal issue with Dwayne Johnson being in this movie is that he is naturally just a one-liner machine. And if a joke he says is funny enough to get a reaction out of the theater, then you know that joke is just gonna make a bunch of like recalls and cameos later on in the movie, and it just gets tedious after a while. They also really didn't make any efforts to make us invested in any of the side characters as far as like the super ones. The metahumans shown or mentioned in this movie aren't really offering anything interesting or really contributing much to the overall plot. That sort of gets a pass here because Black Adam is the main focus, and when they commit to that, that's usually the movie's strong point. I want to mention that the visuals in this movie are really nice too. I don't think anyone will complain that the movie looked like stinky at any point. Pierce Bronson is Dr. Fate in this movie, and he's a nice addition to the cast, but he definitely has like the coolest sequences in the film. Anytime he does any of his cool magic, it just looks really cool, and it's engaging at the very least. Dr. Fate was about the only character in this movie that didn't fall flat most of the time. It's just that all the other side characters just weren't interesting at the least. Unfortunately, they just could have not been in the movie, and I'm not sure that we're ever going to see some of these characters ever again in the DCEU, which I'm totally fine with. I've already talked about this, but I want to reiterate that the fact that anyone sees this movie, they're mostly there to see the action, because the action in this movie is really good. Black Adam killing hundreds of people is more entertaining than it sounds. He just throws them around, blows them up, and electrocutes them. He fucking goes in slow-mo and then just throws a missile at them. It's just really fun. I want to mention that Black Adam is also supposed to be an anti-hero in this movie, which I'm sort of sick of how Hollywood makes these movies where they classify these superheroes as anti-heroes, and the pure definition of anti-hero is just a hero that kills. This only bothers me because usually the arc for these anti-heroes is that they're still going to continue to kill, but they just like value life more than they used to, and that's about it. They just have a better appreciation for all living things, and this movie is just no exception to that. Like I already said, a lot of this stuff is just by the books. It's not really a high stakes movie. That to me would be the only turn off to anyone wanting to see this movie, is that it's just like not super detrimental to the DCEU. Overall, I think that Black Adam was a fun, dumb action movie. Very tame and by the books action movie that doesn't do much writing wise, and it really didn't need to. Just being a fun movie for the general public was all that this movie needed to be. I personally don't care if we do or don't see more of Black Adam in the future, but I also don't mind if we do it. It at least gives us something fun to watch in the future. So today I'm gonna give DC's Black Adam Dark Shazam-like movie a 6.5 out of 10, which I'm gonna go ahead and round up to a 7 for here and for Letterboxd. If you don't know, that's where I go review all the other movies I don't make videos on, so if you want to read those, you should go follow me on that.